Yes, we can see. You can make it presenter mode, I guess.
Sure. Okay.
So hello everyone. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Trivandrum, and I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the Salesforce community groups here. My name is Smita Nambishan and I lead the Salesforce user group. My buddies Parvati Prabhash and Meera Nair co-lead the Trivandrum developer group. Meera will now tell you about what we have and also introduce our amazing speaker. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Smita, for the wonderful introduction. And we are really lucky to have Amit today with us, who is two times Salesforce MVP and founder of SFDC Panther. And in the chat itself, I can see people started sharing their thoughts about Amit, saying like his horse has helped them a lot to learn integration and all, which is really good to see. Yes, he has given multiple courses in Salesforce, which was helpful for many in the community. Also, he is leading Kanpur developer group, and he is a Mulesoft mentor and Tableau ambassador. So without further delay, I would like to hand it over to Amit to give any additional introduction if he is having. Also to start with the session on Mulesoft. Thank you so much, Amit. Over to you.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Meera, Parvati. So first of all, thank you. Thanks everyone. And thank you for joining here. Let me share my screen. It's a rainy day over here. Okay, so this once you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so hey, good morning everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. If there is anyone who is from a different country than India, so we are going to talk about a little bit introduction about Mulesoft, what Mulesoft is, and then we'll talk about what are APIs, how we can develop the API with the help of Mulesoft. And this is basically the agenda that we are going to have. What is an API? Before that, we'll talk about what is Mulesoft, what is API-led connect. The main pillar of Mulesoft, where that Mulesoft, based on what Mulesoft is working on, and then talk about what are the Mulesoft connectors and how we can use those Mulesoft connectors based on what business needed. Then we will definitely we'll develop our first API. We'll talk about how we can access that API at different places, and then we'll also see, because this is more into the Mulesoft plus Salesforce integration. So we'll talk about how we can connect with Salesforce. We'll try to perform basic CRUD operations like create, insert, retrieve, and delete the records. And at the end, we'll have the Q&A session, and we'll also have the quiz and networking. Even if you have any questions, I'll suggest don't wait for this end Q&A section. In between, you can interrupt me and you can ask the question. And I'll request Meera and Parvati for, if there is any question in the chat window, please feel free to interrupt me at that time so that we can make the session as interactive and fun learning. And one request from my side is basically try to make it interactive. The first half is going to be basically, I'll say, kind of a theory part. Even I will make it that easy for you. And then the second half, we'll talk about more into the practical implementation, how we can develop the APIs and all. There were a few questions in your mind, like are we going to record a session where this recording is going to be posted? So I believe the session will be recorded, and the recording will be posted over a YouTube channel, which Meera can post the link over the chat window.
It is already recording.
Okay, yeah. So basically, before we go ahead, there is some safe harbor statement. Both the speakers, that means me and the host, like we have 3 hosts with us. So we are not we are just organizing this meetup in an individual capacity. We are not presenting any kind of company over here. Like Meera is working for another company, I'm working for some companies. So that's, we are not representing over here. Whatever we are presenting here, these are again our views, our we say that our thoughts. We are not trying to make any sale pitch. We are not trying to sell any product over here. That might be a Salesforce, Mulesoft, or anything else. So whatever the activity that we are doing is, it is not for any promotional activity. It is just for fun learning. It is just for learning over here, and we are going to learn together. So as Meera and Parvati has already given the introduction for me, so Basically, I'm working as a Salesforce architect, and I've got 14 Salesforce active certification, which includes both system and application architect. And personally, I try to solve the queries of Salesforce professionals over various channels like success communities, developer forum, or Salesforce Stack Exchange. I kind of try to learn or try to make myself ready with the latest update that Salesforce is releasing every 3 months or 4 months, with the help of a Trailhead and Salesforce developer blogs as well. So about me, like my working hours are 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And if you want to connect with me professionally or personally, you can connect with over my Twitter handle, which is Amit or SFDC_Panther. You can also connect with me over LinkedIn, which is my username is simply Amit. And I'm a founder of SFDC Panther that already has been given to you by Amira and Amit. So now before let's quickly start with the Mulesoft. So most of us already know that Mulesoft is a Salesforce company, because Mulesoft has been acquired by Salesforce recently, and then with the help of Mulesoft, we can develop the API, we can manage the API, we can basically do everything that comes under the API development and management lifecycle. And Mulesoft can also be used to integrate the various systems, which we can say that if we have the various systems, the legacy systems like or AWS or any other system, and we wanted to integrate the data, we wanted to migrate the data, we can also do that. So here Mulesoft comes with the two different capabilities, like designing and managing the APIs, as well as migrating the data for your companies. So Mulesoft is a runtime engine, which is basically provided, or we say that it runs on top of any point platform, which is developed by Salesforce. And Mulesoft is developed on top of Java, where they have got a lightweight Java enterprise services. We say that Java EE Beans and their Spring frameworks or Hibernate frameworks that they are using behind the scene. And as a developer, or we say that as a Mulesoft developer, we don't need to write a code in Java. Sometimes we need to write a code in a different language, which is data view, but that is very less. I'll say that 90 times we don't need to write out of handwritten. With the help of Mulesoft, we can integrate with the no matter what is their request and what is their response format. When we talk about request and response format, there are the system has its own mechanism that they understand. For example, Salesforce can understand both the mechanism which is XML, and it is also a JSON format as well. There are some systems which only accept JSON. There are some systems which only accept XML. So no matter what technologies they are using, no matter what sort of communication ways they are using, Mulesoft has the capability to convert the data from incoming to the outgoing system based on their connectors that they have, and then we are also going to discuss those connectors as well. So what does it mean by API management platform? So as I said that Mulesoft is basically an API management platform where we can design the APIs, we can develop the APIs. Designing and developing the APIs are two different phases. We can deploy the APIs to Cloud Hub, which are nothing. Those are basically AWS that where we are deploying our code. We can also manage its complete life cycle, like what should be the users who will be able to access, what sort of authentication that we wanted to put that to the APIs. So if you're not aware about the authentication and all schemes, we'll definitely going to cover those here while we will be doing the practical implementation. Securing APIs is basically if you have some sort of additional mechanism like putting the certificates or having some sort of JWT authentication or SAML schema kind of things, you can also have, and then reuse APIs. Suppose that you have developed an API for order management. So that API is order management API is used for a particular customer, but then again there is a customer who is saying that okay, I also have to develop the order management API. So what we do is basically we develop the API for the first time, and then we kind of reuse this, like in Apex, if I talk about in Salesforce term, you have a code and then you are trying to reusing for the multiple methods. So that is how we can also use the reuse the APIs. There are some existing APIs that you can reuse. There are some APIs that you can develop, and then you can reuse those inside your organization for which you are working or for a client that you are working. So what is an API? Because we have talked about APIs, API this, API that, and this is how API work. We can design, manage, develop, secure, all kind of things. So what API is? So the first thing is that the acronym, we said that API is a short form of our application programming interface. With the help of API, what we can do is we can integrate, or we say that we can establish a communication between two or more machines. Suppose that I have got a machine A and then I have got machine B. I wanted to send the data from machine A to machine B, or I wanted to send the data from machine B to machine A, vice versa. So to do this, how we can do this? Like, we are not going to have some sort of intermediate hard drives or hard disks where the data here and then we are going to send the different system. The location can vary for these systems, right? It can be located in India, this can be located in USA or any geography of the world. So we cannot afford those kind of things. So what we do is basically, if we wanted to consume or we wanted to send the data to system B, the developers who are working at organization B, who are going to develop an API, they're going to give you some sort of endpoints that you can consume for system A and data, and you can get the data from B. Or you can also do the vice versa. You can develop the API for system A, and then system B can basically access your data based on whatever the authentication, whatever the URL parameters that you have given. Whenever we talk about APIs, there are some predefined operations. That is what you can only do. There is nothing like you can have by your own. So there are some standards, like we can have operations. Basically, API have operations which can be what we are going to call, what URL we are going to have. So we say that get, which is going to get the resources. Post is going to, sometimes it is going to create, sometimes return the data. Then we have got delete for deleting a data from the target system. Put we have got, and then we have got batch. So these are the 5 most widely used methods, and that is what we are going to play around over here in our demo as well. Then inputs. The API accepts the input, or like we say that may or may not accept the inputs. So if you are using a get method, you can send them inputs. Sometimes you don't need to send. For example, you wanted to send the ID in the URL parameters, or you wanted to send a complete JSON or XML body. So that is what it is going to say that input. So simple example is, wherever you are trying to log into Salesforce, right, in the UI format, you see that there are 2 inputs. One is for username, one is for password. So what happening is, whatever you type for username and whatever you type for password, these are going to be sent in a API call, which may be having post or which may be having get method. These are being sent to the Salesforce server, and in the Salesforce server, it is authorizing, okay, if this user is existing, then it is going to map for the password. If this user doesn't exist, they are just throwing the error. If both the matches correctly, they are going to say that, okay, now you are authorized to access, or you are authenticated to access that particular Salesforce system you are trying to. Then output. An API must have an input and output. If you are sending a data to API, it will definitely return you the output. Output can be of 2 different types. One can be a success response, one can be an error response. But there will definitely be an output from any API that you are trying to access. And then object structures. So object structures, we can also say that if you talk about Salesforce, those are basically nothing. Those are the objects and fields. If we talk about APIs, these are JSON and XML data structures. This can be CSV, this can be a plain text, or this can be any other communication format that are available over there. So anyone have? Yeah.
So Amit, we have 2 questions here, not related to API, but related to the introduction that you have given about Mulesoft. So there is a question from Dikshit related to, so what he is asking, I have read somewhere like Mulesoft is developed on the top of Spring framework of Java. Can you just explain in brief how it uses Spring internally? I'm not sure if that is something we will be able to comment about.
So basically, Spring is framework, as you already mentioned, it's a Java framework. Okay. In Spring, mainly what they use is, behind the scene, they try to generate a lot of XML files. I cannot explain the whole process over here, but basically, Spring is something where they have some sort of XML files that they generate behind the scene, and when they generate the XML files, they have some sort of, I'll show you basically that XML file, how they generate the XML files in the Mulesoft. But on a high level, I'll say that Spring is a framework which is widely used. We say that in different places, like you have got banking systems. Most of the banking application has been developed on top of Spring and Hibernate frameworks. And most of the big companies or big softwares are running on top of those Java. And if you see, right, any integration tool that is there, you have said that Delboomi, or you have got Jitterbit, you have got Challenge, you have got Cozy.Off, or there are many other tools which are available. Are there in the developed on top of Java, and the reason is that Java follow the concept of Cora and Bora. That means write once and run anywhere, or compile once and run anywhere. So that is why the Java is most popular language to develop these kind of software, so that we can run at any platform, which can be Windows or a Mac, or it can be Linux, any other kernel it can be.
Okay, thanks, Amit. That was useful. So there's another question from Smita. Amit, you mentioned that there is little coding needed to be a Mulesoft dev. Does that mean even someone from non-coding background can learn it? For example, an admin or consultant.
Yeah, so basically, when I said that little coding needed, that means sometimes what you do is, suppose that you're having some sort of input, and then you need to input to the, right. So wherever you are converting, say that this is basically nothing, it's JSON, and it is XML, right? So whenever you are converting, then you have to code. So there is nothing. I'll say that this is not a hard thing to learn. Mulesoft has given a lot resources. They have basically got a complete playground for learning data view. That is not. We'll say that it's not Java, it's not Python, it's not any other language. It's a Mulesoft language itself. And to learn this, there is like, the main thing is that whenever you are trying to convert JSON to XML, that is the key thing. Where most of the developers got stuck, even sometimes I do, but that is not a big deal. If you don't have any knowledge on the coding, you can definitely learn.
Thanks, Amit. That explains it.
Yeah.
We have actually we have got a couple of more questions. Maybe I will take one more, and then other questions we can discuss later, if that is okay with you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So when should we, it is from Sita, when should we think to use Mulesoft compared to other integration tools with external systems or Salesforce?
Talk about this in the later slides. We have got that.
Sure.
So let's talk about the example. As we said that, right, API is having a request. Okay, so that this is a client. The client can be a machine, it can be a system, or it can be a people. Sorry, not people. It can be a browser. Where you are sending a request, there is a server, which can be again a machine or a database or anything. Then it is going to send you a response. This is as simple as whatever the API you are sending. And then one thing that I talk about, or I say that I always say about API is, API is nothing, it is what a developer codes. So whatever a developer is coding behind the scene, that is what the response is going to be returned. So I'll talk about this with an example, which is a restaurant example. It's a real-time example, and you all will be able to get it. So everyone have gone to restaurant at least once in our life. So we are basically sending a request. So how we are sending? This is our client, and this is basically we say that this is some sort of processor by which we are sending, say that HTTP client. So our we say that our client is sending some sort of request, say that or ordering some sort of foods or beverage, whatever they wanted to have. Then there is going to be the request is going to be processed, right? Process is going to be done by the server. We say that where chef is going to the food for you, and then again our HTTP client is going to send the response to us, say that okay, this is what you have ordered, and this is basically nothing, which we are getting the response from our server. So these are basically the simple example that Shravan has basically given us for. So now let's quickly talk about with the website, where we are talking about website, because this is I think most of us people don't know what actually that works. So this is basically the BBC news site which I have opened. So what happens behind the scene when I try to hit this URL? Most of the time we say that okay, this is a website, whatever get this. This is intended, and we have written pages over there. It can be on HTML, React, Node.js, or any other markup language. But what exactly it is, basically, it's nothing, it's an API. Whatever you are hitting in the URL is nothing, it is an API. And this is what it has been coded by a developer. That is what I said. API is nothing, it is what a developer code. Instead of news, if I say that, okay, news new, okay, or I say that, so if I hit enter, there is nothing. The reason is that the developer has for this particular URL. You cannot, okay, if you hit enter, you'll get the home page. If you try to search, I'm trying to search for anything, any news related to cricket. If I search, I get on the top there, basically this is a URL where I got it, and this is a URL parameter where I have query, it is a equal to cricket, and we got some information related to cricket. Okay. Now, suppose that if I say that, okay, I'm going to say that, okay, query equal to cricket. So will it work? It will not work. The reason is that it hasn't coded anything related where it says that there anything which is come after a question mark and say that query. If I make it as SQL, again I get the response. Go to Google, right? If you say that google.com, if you go to google.com and search anything, let's say that Salesforce. If you search for Salesforce, on the top, if you search, and again it is a query parameter Salesforce, and there are some sort of they have basically some other things. Now if I instead of search say that okay, let's say that I'm going to put a find, it's not going to find anything for you, and it will show 404 error where say that your resource you are wrong. So again, this nothing. It is an API which is coded by whatever you are searching based on your request. Is whenever you are searching Salesforce, right? Salesforce Mulesoft. So whenever I'm searching for Salesforce Mulesoft, I'm doing nothing. My browser is making a request to the Google server and saying that I want something which is related to Salesforce Mulesoft. So they will make the query to the different databases or whatever the algorithm that they are running behind the scene. They will do the processing, like the restaurant example that HTTP client is going to do. And then they will basically, so over here say that, okay, this is all the request that I have found. Now, if you wanted to open this, say that, okay, you've got mulesoft.com, Salesforce Mulesoft, you can just go ahead and open this and you'll be able to see whatever a developer has coded for this. If I try to change this to SFDC, I said, okay, Salesforce and SFDC both are the same thing. But you will not get, if there is nothing, we say, we are getting 404 error. So that is a very basic example about, say that our APIs with help of our web. And talking about this 404, these are nothing, these are the status codes. So there are predefined status codes that are provided by HTTP, where we say that, okay, if this is the request, or we say that if this is the code, then this is the meaning of that code. Say that if you are getting, that I'm changing source. So behind the scene, the code that is being written, or 200 and 201 are the two codes which we say that, okay, these are the success code. That means the API was hit successfully without any error, and we were able to get the response. If you wanted to know more about these status codes, there is a very cool site which is http.cat. You'll get, but there are too many. Like, you can't even remember that many codes are there. You can have these. You go here, say that, and continue, and if you talk about 202 or 201 or 200. So these are all three status codes which you say that, okay, these are the codes which are considered as success, and even 204 is also considered as success. 206 is also considered success. So basically these are the 6 codes that you can consider your API is somehow working fine. So if you can just go ahead and say that 291, to open this, and it is going to show you the emails with help of a cat. So that is all about our APIs with the help of our web. So this is basically we are talking about API connectivity, where this is the main important thing about Mulesoft. What Mulesoft does is, before Mulesoft, what it was happening basically is, just give me 1 second. Before Mulesoft is, suppose that we have to integrate multiple systems, right? Say that okay, we have got a Salesforce. Now we need to integrate Salesforce with, and then say that we need to integrate Salesforce with some sort of Oracle. We need to integrate Salesforce with AWS Cloud, and there are some sort of other database. There are some sort of other CRMs. We say that, or some sort of is we can say that ERP. So what happens without Mulesoft? There is something say that okay, this is going to Salesforce is going to consume each system point to point. This is basically nothing. Salesforce is directly consuming these APIs or these systems without having any intermediate, without having any in between. Okay, now it is basically point to point. If anything goes wrong with this SAP, this complete integration is not going to work. Similarly, anything is go wrong with any of these tools, nothing is going to work. Okay, and suppose that this SAP is having some sort of customer API. Okay, they have customers and they've got orders. Sorry. Okay, they have got some customers and they have got orders. And what is basically happening is behind the scene. Say that Oracle also having the customers, and say that there is some other ERP which is also having customers and orders API. No, access the customer's information. Okay, say that there is something, we have got a customer number, something, some unique number. Okay, this customer number we need to find out. Customer says that okay, this is my number, I need to find out all my orders. So what we have to do in this case, Salesforce has to make a call out. Number one, call out to this SAP system. Number two, to Oracle. And number three, to some other ERP. Find out where this particular customer resides. And then again, once they find out where this system or the customer is, they again have to make an extra call out. Say that, okay, we have got one order. Okay. Say that, okay, we have got one order. Then again, we have got one order API to find out are the orders related to this customer. There are possibilities. The orders are there in the SAP, orders are there in the Oracle or any ERP system. Again, if any of these service is going to fail, the customer is going to see nothing. They will see some sort of errors. Okay, something happens, or even you might have seen there are some sort of error messages when you see that okay, something wrong happened or something is not good. Please try after some times. Most of the times when you are trying to make the payments, you usually get that page if there is something wrong on their side, in the server side. So this is basically, we said that it is nothing, it's point to point. But when we talk about Mulesoft API-led connectivity, what they do, what Mulesoft is going to do is they are going to divide the APIs into three different phases. When we say that three different phases, each phase is going to be taken care by a different system. And each phase is known as, basically, we say that each phase is known as with a different name. One is system API, then we've got process API, then we have got experience APIs. System APIs are the first one which is going to be developed, then process APIs are going to be developed, and then experience APIs are going to be developed, and then we have got our developers. Basically, experience API is going to be associated with the end users. We said that our actual developers. Okay, this system API is going to be developed by the product owners. We say that LOB, line of business, and then it is going to be developed by some sort of central IT developers. So now we've got three different teams which are going to work on three different APIs, and going to grow. So that this particular API has to be changed. The input is going to be changed, or the output is going to be changed, or is anything additional information that we need to send. So we only need to change this particular API. Nothing needs to be changed. We don't need to change system API. We don't need to change the experience API. We need to change. Definitely, we need to change. But if we change this API, there is nothing going to be broken in the process. the user will still be able to see the old experience that they had. And once it changed, the experience API developer can go ahead and make their changes, and then again the UI is updated based on what user is seeing. Now here, if you see system APIs, basically we have got Salesforce, we've got SAP, we've got UPS shipments, we've got some sort of other shipments, and then some other databases. It can be AWS, or we say that orders can be some sort of systems. Okay. Now for this system API, what actually we do is, we've got Salesforce customers, right? Suppose that we wanted to expose the customers from Salesforce. Instead of directly enabling these developers to access the Salesforce, what we say that, okay, we are going to develop an API for Salesforce. We'll say that Salesforce customers will develop an endpoint from where they can access the customers. And then in the process API, we'll again develop one API which will say that, okay, customers. And then a developer needs to access this API. They don't need to access directly to the system, which is our system. That is one thing that is basically coming in the picture as a middleware. And one process API can call multiple system APIs. Like if you see here, right, this order status is calling the orders from our different systems, then order Salesforce as well, sorry, customers from Salesforce and customer from SAP as well. So this process API, if you talk about, is connecting with three different systems. This process API can also call the process API at its own level. That there is nothing like you cannot call at a sibling level. So you can also do that. Here. Now let's talk about a simple example. A developer is coming, basically, sorry, not developer, a customer is coming, okay. They are saying they are accessing either using a web application or accessing using a mobile application. Where they say that, okay, I need to check the order status for a particular customer. So what they will say here is they will enter their order status, whatever the order they have got. Then whenever they click on a particular button, right, definitely there will be a button or something where based on which they can interact with the browser. So they will click here. So what happens, this particular API which has been developed by a developer, the experience API developer, this is going to be called. It will say that, okay, this is basically the order status. They will call the order status. They might call the shipment API as well to see if the order has been shipped, or whatever the status for that status for shipment is to that particular order as well. They will call whatever the history of that order is. Basically, this history will also information related to the shipments as well. Then they will say, okay, let's find out what is information related to that customer. And now customer can decide inside either Salesforce or SAP. So what they will do is, this particular API is going to make a call in parallel, not point to point. In parallel, they will make a call and they will say, okay, whatever the result they have got, they will return that result in a segregated way. If you got one customer from here, we got same customer from over here, so they will segregate the result, and then the original is going to be one customer. So that is how basically our API-led connectivity is working. And now the benefit of using API-led connectivity is, first thing is that maintainability of API. If we are using, or like we are dividing the API into three different layers, it is very easy to maintain the APIs. And again, about maintenance, again, it is to reduce the cost of the development. When we say that development, if there is anything which is breaking at the production, whenever we are using point-to-point integration, it is going to cost 100 times than the cost we are saving at the time of development. So that is one thing also. Then everything is going to be, again, if we are making the changes, the changeability of the API is also very easy. Change the API at that particular process, everything else is going to remain intact. And then the process is working fine. There is no broken experience. Users are not. And then once you have got the changes to this process API, you can make the changes to the web API. Similarly, you can make the changes to the system APIs. If there are new fields or if there are existing fields that needs to be deleted, and make the changes over here, other operations are going to remain intact, and the experience will also be, we'll say that flawless. There will not be any issues on that side. Now, as we talked about these three systems, let's say who is responsible for developing which particular APIs. So you've got system API, which is basically owned by the central IT. We say that accessibility and ownership. This is basically, and this is how they are going to develop. So central IT system, we say that Center for Excellence is going to develop these APIs. Then we have got log IT developers, line of business developers who are going to develop your process APIs. And then application developers are going to develop your experience APIs with nothing to show the data, to show the outcome in a mobile format, in an iPad, or any other system that you have got. So this is basically related to API-led connectivity. And before we go ahead, basically these are the few like question to identify which tools needs to be used. So basically these are the few criteria that consider while making any selection of the tool. Either you are going to develop a code, or you are going to use Mulesoft, you are going to use Delbumi, you are going to use Jitterbit. What tool you are going to use, you have to write down or pen down some sort of experiences that I say, like say that, okay, code is definitely going to broke after 1 year, but that is going to definitely going to be broken. If that it's broken, say that after 5 years, what will be the cost to fix that? Because up to 5 years your business is running fine, you've got so many customers, good experiences. Now if suddenly your experience is broken, to even if you're fixing, say that if you are taking at least 1 hour to fix, that is going to be a big cost for you. And then again, maintainability, the number of resources that you are using, the specialization of the resources, these kind of things that you have to use. And there are few things other, like either you are going to develop the APIs, or you are going to, so if you're just going to market the data, you can consider other tools as well. Again, I'm not making any statements over here. So these are some things that you have, and this is, as a developer, this is not your duty to identify all these. This is basically the duty of an architect or the product managers that they are working with the clients. And there are many things. And when we are enterprise clients, most of the times you will see that middleware which is being involved. And in the middleware, there are a few more things like security, orchestration, and how you are going to maintain the communication between the various systems, kind of things also comes into the pictures. So did we get any additional questions before we go ahead?
Them already asked by others, Amit, so I think we are good. The other questions are generic. Probably we can take that towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have already talked about system experience API. So that's enough about the everything and all. Let's quickly talk about how we can develop our first API and how it is going to work. So what we'll do is, as usual for every programming language, we are also going to work with a Hello World API. And this time it is going to be Hello Max Mule. And there is one thing that I have forgot to mention is, if you have seen that whenever you're trying to search for Mulesoft, if you try to find a logo, what exactly it looks like? It looks like a mule, right? So there is also a message which is Mulesoft is trying to convey is, if you have a work which is a donkey work, that means it is basically going to be a work which only a donkey can do. Is okay, we give them the work, they are just they are just deployed to the work and they are doing and doing and doing that. They're not completing anything. That kind of donkey work you can address with the Mulesoft. That is why, again, this is my experience that I have found, or this is my assumption that I have seen is donkey work is basically, or say that representing the Mulesoft logo, which is Mule. Okay. Now let's talk about this. So basically, to develop the first API, you have two options. Either you can use Mulesoft Studio, or you can use Mulesoft Anypoint platform. Okay, as a developer, you can Mulesoft and Mulesoft developer. Mulesoft Studio is lifetime free, which you can download. Now there are a few things that you need to keep in mind. This runtime Anypoint platform is basically going to run on a web. You can access it from anywhere. This Mulesoft Studio is going to run on your local machine, and it requires high configuration. This is that high configuration. It requires minimum of 8 GB RAM, but recommended is 16 GB. So if your system has minimum 8 GB RAM, you can download the studio and you can run. The studio is basically nothing, it's a plug and play. It requires a Java runtime, but that Java runtime studio, so there is no need to download the Java separately. So before we go ahead and work, like basically discuss on this Mule project, let's quickly talk about from where we can do all these things, like from where we can download the studio, or from where we can set up a Mulesoft Anypoint account. Okay, so to set up a Mulesoft Anypoint account, what you need to do is you just need to go to a URL called anypoint.mulesoft.com, and you can just go here. By default, you might see a login, and if you go to the sign up, you will see that you've got a sign up form like any other environment Salesforce or something. If you wanted to give the information, let's say that okay, you are saying that what my name is, I'll say that Amit Singh, and I can put my email over here. You just need to provide a phone number. You can provide dummy phone number over here, so that I'm going to provide my company name, and this is your username. I'm going to provide 1 to 6. And this is my username, password, and then say that okay, you're not robot. Accept the agreements and click over here. So as soon as you click on this accept and create account, it is going to create an Anypoint account for you. I'm going to save the password. So this is the first place where you will land in platform. But this is, again, you need to remember, this is a, and you can create as many account you want with the help of email ID, but just change the username. If you scroll down to the bottom, you will see Anypoint Studio. You click over here on this Anypoint Studio, it is going to download. So if you click here, it is going to basically take you to one URL. This is the URL which you have. If you click download Anypoint Studio, you need to select what operating system you are working. Using a Mac, you can use Linux or Windows. Just select okay job title. You can say you can agreement so that okay Salesforce Architect, and just go ahead and download it. Once you download it, it will start downloading. I think the setup is approx 2 GB, so it might take some time based on the speed of your ISP, whatever you've got. So once you've downloaded it, like for Mac OS, it is a DMZ. You just need to double click and then to the application folder. You will be able to. And for for Windows, you will see a zip file that you need to just extract it down, and you will see a run file, basically the file which is a runnable, see that the jar file, executable file. So so here, if you see right, as we say that Mulesoft is a API management platform, so you can see all these things are over here. Access management, where you can create users, business groups, you can see the logs and everything. API manager is something where you can manage the APIs, like provide the SLAs. SLAs are like you say that okay, your API can be hit maximum one time in a 1 minute. So you can have those. You can manage the traffic. You can put the alerts there so that your API limit is basically approaching for the day, kind of things. Runtime manager is basically this is something where you deploy your Mule projects. Visualizer, you've got monitoring and secret manager, like managing the public SSL keys and all those things. To see that if you're what is the expiration date of your project, management center, go to the API manager, and under the API manager, it might ask. There might be a possibility it might ask to select what environment you are using, because Salesforce, Microsoft has 2 environments. One is design for designing the API, one is for sandbox, working with the projects. So basically it is again trying to log in with the help of my credentials that I've given over here. So we'll come back later to this particular screen and we'll talk about the other things as well. Now let's talk about this project, right? By default, your project explorer on the left, you see here, this is project explorer. It is going to be blank without any project. You will not see any project over there, okay? This is the project canvas where we can drag and drop the things from project Mule palette, which we say that connector palette as well. We can drag and drop the things over here. That is the UI is going to build. And this console is basically where you will see all the logs. You will see that if there is any error related to that particular API that you have seen. Now, talk about API, right? There we have talked about API specification, we have talked about API design. So when we talk about API design, or we talk about developing an API, first thing that we need to talk about is specifications. What specifications that API can take as an input, or how our API is going to behave. First thing we'll talk about what kind of request it can accept. Either get, post, delete, basically the methods which we are talking over here. Then what kind of response it is returning, JSON, XML, or both. Then what are mandatory fields, what are the data types, request format, kind of things we need to talk about, we need to think about those, and then after that we need to start working on designing the API. Now let's talk about a very simple example over here, construction of a building. Okay, we try to construct a building. Initially what usually we do is we try to find a specification, what is going to be a room size, what is going to be the kitchen, what is going to, how the washroom is going to look like, how your balcony is going to look like, what is going to be the size, all kind of things we do is with the help of a specification. There is an architect behind the scene which say that okay, these are the specifications, and once you've got this specification as a developer, or we say that as a developer there are civil engineers who try to build this building, and as a developer you are trying to build the API, and once the API is ready you can deploy it, you can start working on this, and then construction, the building is ready. So this is all about our API specification. Now when we talk about when we talk specifications, we talk about some sort of request response and data types, right? So what happens whenever you are sending some sort of information like some request which is going to accept some parameters, you are sending some request which is not accepting parameters, but there is somebody, or you are sending a get request in some parameters in the URL. So how you can do that? For that, this is basically nothing, it is a mule event. Okay, so every single API is going to process this. Every single API have a mule event, or every single connector in the Mulesoft has a mule event. Mule event contains two things. One is variables and mule message. Okay, there are two things. Mule message contains two things: payload and attributes. Payload is the actual information that you are sending, actual request that you are sending, basically the actual body, or the actual response that you are sending back to the user. Attributes are the attributes of your HTTP client. Say that what are the URL parameters, what is the authentication mechanism, what are the URI parameters, and what is the headers, all kind of things that you get inside an attribute. And then you get the variables, right? These variables are the developer made variables. Every API has, or not API, every programming language has its own variables, right? In even Apex we say user, we say that decimal, double, list, set, map, these kind of variables we do create. Similarly, we can create the variable inside Mulesoft as well. As per our need, if you wanted to create a variable, we wanted to store a specific information there, we can use those variables. We can create those variables as a developer. So this is about our Mulesoft message structure, very important thing to consider before working with the APIs. So again, we've talked about these Mulesoft payload, attributes, and variables. We are going to design our first API. So to design the first API, before we go ahead, all you need is download Postman for your system, or you can use advanced REST client, or you can also use any other web service tool like web service testing tool, which might be SOAP API, or any of the things that I do use. So basically, I always you can use that. If you want to use advanced REST client, you can also use that. And basically, I have got this Anypoint Studio, which is up and running for me. Okay, so this is, as I said, right, this is how your project explorer is going to, your project is going to look like. You've got multiple menus on the top, you've got projects. I have got multiple projects over here. So I'll just go ahead. To create a project, you have a couple of options. One is like you click here, right click, you see that, and you have got multiple options over here, right? We'll not talk about all of these. We'll just talk about Mule project. So we'll say that go ahead and say that Mule project, and it is going to say that Tiruvandhuram, okay? And I'll say that India. whatever the name you wanted to have, even you can say that my first API, or you can say that hello world, anything you can give it to name. Finish it. So once you finish, it is going to basically open a blank canvas for you. There is nothing in your API. You cannot call it for now. Now, if you see here, right, on the left-hand side, what we have got is, we have got a HTTP connector by default. We have got Java libraries which are required, JDK8, you can say embedded, which is coming along with the studio. Then you have got Mule server, which is 4.3 enterprise edition. Then we have got sockets. SRC is something where we can code that we wanted to have, and on the SRC main Mule. So basically, this is where we can have multiple where we can do the drag and drop. Then main job. Sometimes we need to write the Java code in advanced projects. We can write Java files inside this folder. Main resources or the resources, dependencies of the projects, like some sort of static files. If we wanted to have, we can put inside the resources. And all the test files for the testing purpose, we can have inside this SRC test resources. And then test M unit is the folder where we need to develop all the test cases. Or if we talk about in Salesforce terms, develop all the test classes inside this particular folder. So now we have got this XML file. If you see, right, there was a question related to Spring Framework. If you configurations XML, you see this is basically the XML. This is built using your Spring Framework behind the scene. Now if you go to the message flow, the very first thing that you need to have is, we have already discussed, there should be a URL to access if you are trying to access an API. So what we'll do is, we'll just go ahead and say, okay, HTTP listener is going to work as our URL. Just from the favorites, select listener, and then just drag and drop over here. You will see it is saying that, okay, I'm not happy. There is something which I need. So just go ahead and you will see on the bottom, you'll see listener, and you can say whatever listener is. So that I'm going to say it is going to make a get API call, and the endpoint is basically going to be hello. This is my display name. Then it is asking a path. I'll say that, okay, hello. But it is still not happy. It is saying connector configuration. There has to be a connector configuration for listener, because okay, I said that I need a listener, but what listener? So I have to tell the system what kind of listener I wanted to have. By default, I use localhost 8081, and if you wanted to test the connection, you can just click on test connection. If you see a test connection successful, that means you are getting a success. If you see some sort of error, like say that port is already used by some other operations, try to changing the port into some other port, and go ahead and click on OK. Now, if you click anywhere in the canvas, you will see it's happy now, and the name has been changed to get. Okay. Now we say that, okay, you're trying to access to get hello, but now what I need to return? So to return that, we've got a connector. We say that transform message. This is very helpful, and this is the connector which you are going to use multiple times to convert one format to another format, like JSON to XML, XML to JSON, JSON to data view, Java, CSV, or Excel kind of things. This is where you are going to play around. Transform message. Even if you have a data, you wanted to send it to Salesforce, you will use transform message to map the fields of Salesforce. We'll see that as well. Now here, if you see on the left hand side, this is nothing. This is our data sense explorer, data view. Attributes, we have no variables, we have no payload, okay, because we are not receiving anything. It says multiple things: parameters, URI parameters, headers, and then you've got listener path, or what exactly is relative path. So already have, right? Now, what kind of outcome? This is input, this is output. What output you want? In which format you wanted to have the output? Say that I wanted to send the output JSON, okay? You want to preview, you can click on preview as well. It is, if I say, okay, I'm going to drag over here. So this is input, where our mapping is going to look like, and this is output preview. Okay. Now say that I'm going to say that, okay, send a message, or say that I'm going to send a greeting, and I'll say that hello. see there is no error, and this is how it is going to look like outcome. Okay, if you wanted to send something else, say that you wanted to send listener path. Okay, so how you will send it? So you just need to click control space. Okay, as soon as you will hit control space, you will see all available things that you can use over here. So that I wanted to use attributes. Okay, I don't have that option because first I need, and then under payload I need, under payload again you can just hit control space. It's not giving me, say that okay attributes. It's not, basically it should be attributes. Attributes dot, then I've got listener path. Okay, you've got it listener path. You have something else you can have. Now it is not letting me preview. The reason is that this value is not defined. That is why I'm not able to see anything. If I, as soon as I'll remove this particular information, I'll be able to see the preview over here, then and there. So that is how basically you can send the information. Now let's remove this. We are not working with. So that I wanted to send this back as Java. So if you say that Java, it is saying that okay, it's an object because this is an object, and then inside there is a parameter called greeting, which is a type of string, and this is a value. There is something say that DW, which is data view. You will say this is, or if you wanted to send XML, you will see in the form of XML as well. Or you say that CSV. I'm not quite sure if this is going to work, but you see it is working as a CSV. So this kind of information, this is why this particular transform message is helpful, and this is why this particular data view is helpful for us. On the top, you say that it is saying that ampersand DW 2.0. This is saying that we are using 2.0. We are going to write an outcome, which is saying that output is application. What are the type of our outcome? And these are header directory. On top of that, we can create our own variables over here, and we can create the variables using a different way as well. This is the very first API developed. Okay. Now to run this, you need to do is you just need to run this application. Just right click and click on run project, whatever the project is. Go ahead. As soon as you will run in the console, you will see that your project is running. What it will do is it will build a project, it will launch the JVM, and it is going to deploy your project locally so that you can test it with the help of localhost colon your port number, which is 8081, and then what is your URL. Okay, so it will take some time. For the first time, it takes time to basically initialize the project. Behind the scene, it is doing all these things. You can see here a polling strategy. It is using Uber. And then new app. Basically, this is our app. This is initializing the app over here. So every single thing you can see over here, the logging, every single logging. It is running in the meantime. You can go and you will see it's like this. Okay, because if you see over here kind of things you've got, this is how your what is happening behind. I think it's using a Spring framework to design all these kind of things. And now if you see here, you see application is deployed and application is success. Okay, now you wanted to test it. How you will test it? So you will go to your particular URL. Okay, I'll just go ahead and add a new request over here. So I'll say that hello Max. What is going to be our URL? I'll say that okay, it is going to be localhost, and the port number is going to be 8081. Okay, and then a request I wanted to have, I have given a parameter called hello. This is what the endpoint I have given. If you go to your project, if you go to the listener path that you wanted to have, if you wanted to have something else, you can also have said that okay, I wanted to have word, I wanted to have hello. You can have that as well, but we are not going to make any changes, because if you make the changes, our project needs to be redeployed. So we'll go here, send the information, and it is returning
sort of single hello Max name.
And if you say okay, it's not a text, it's basically a JSON. I think there is something in our transform message. Okay, it's Java basically, that is why. And we'll again save it. As soon as you hit Control S, it is going to redeploy your project, and it will basically, this time it will do hot deploy. That means it will not take much time. Within a few seconds, your application will be for the testing purpose. Now our application is ready. You can see all these dependencies are ready over here. Send it, and you will get over here greeting. Now, there is one thing I'd like to tell you is every time, whenever you're trying to hit a URL or you're trying to hit an API, that is nothing, it is someone else's computer. Okay, so if I go to the browser, if I say that, okay, IP file is basically the API, that IP file document, okay, which basically returns IP of our particular network. Okay, okay, if I say this is the, there is one, okay, this is the one, basically, yeah. So if I go this, okay, if I hit this URL on the browser, you see that this is basically giving me some sort of response, say that this is your IP and this is the IP that I have got, okay. And what it is making is, it is making a GET API, because everything we hit in the browser, it is a GET API call. Now, wherever this particular API has been hosted, that system also have its own IP address. Suppose that if I give you my IP address and my URL, you will be able to hit and you will be able to see this message, which is saying that hello Max Mill. So to do that, what I will do is I'll just go ahead, show you my IP. Okay, I'll also go to the network. Basically, this is my IP. Okay, I'll just copy it, and here I'll replace localhost with my IP. I'll hit enter. I got this message. Okay, I will copy this URL. Go to the browser. I got public URL. I'll just go ahead, hit enter. You see that this is basically I've got. And now I will need one volunteer here. I'm just putting this in the chat window. Any one of you can try this URL and you will be able to see that message as well in your browser, no matter you're connected with my URL or not. Anyone, if you could try to see and confirm if that is working for you or not. I just put URL in the chat window. You can just open that URL and tell me if you are able to see the response or not.
I'm trying it out, Amit.
It's working.
Give me a moment.
Okay, it's in the north side.
Yeah, the site can't be reached.
Site can't be reached. Okay, I tried it. Okay, no issues. I think basically that is it should work. If it's not working, I think it's not working on my end. I have got multiple response. It's not working, but I will see. I think it should work because I tried for my system. It was working, but let's see. Okay. So basically, that is how your API is. API this particular part with some sort of URL, right? Okay, so that sfbcpanda.com. It will mask this particular URL. What happens actually is this URL or this domain is particularly masked behind a particular IP, or say that on top of an IP. So that is how your IP works. It's basically an IP, and that is how you can work with your APIs. This is a very simple API that you have got. And now, if you go to this list, there are various things. If you go to the response advanced, in the advanced section, you see that you've got allowed methods. So you can provide some sort of methods, which method is allowed. Say that, okay, I've got get, okay. That means this particular URL is only for get. Or if I say that if it's for get and post, this method can work for both get and post. And this time what I'll make the change is, I will just say, okay, it is whatever the JSON format is, and I'm going to return whatever the payload is, okay? And I will just go ahead, save it. We'll be able to see a hot deploy over here. And once it is done, we'll be able to see, we'll be able to send a few more requests. So if I say over here, this is a get, okay, if I send it, I got nothing, a blank response, because payload has nothing, we're not sending anything. Now if I go to the body, if I in the raw body, it is going to be a type of JSON. I say that, okay, I've got name that Max Mule, okay, and it should be double quotes, and I say that, okay, it's is. I'm not sure what is the is of result. And if I send it, We're getting the same thing. Now, if you notice one thing over here, we are using a get method. We still can send a body in the get method. And now in our API, what we are saying is that whatever you are sending to me in a body as a get method, I will return that as a. So that is what we got over here. Now, if you change it to post, you can, because post method is also allowed. Now, if you change it something else, let's say that put, you will see the error method not allowed for an endpoint. So sometimes you might get this error while you are working with real-time projects. That means this particular URL doesn't allow this method, whatever that method you are trying to have. So we have only allowed get and post. That's why we are able to get those working fine. So this is basically the one I want to say. Now let's quickly navigate one step more and try to work with sales. Well, this is the initial, like we said, that API things. Now I have stopped this project. Now what we need to do is we need to connect with Salesforce. Okay. So to connect with Salesforce, suppose that we wanted to get a simple query. So what we'll do is we'll search for Salesforce, and you can just go search Salesforce query. You will see you've got Salesforce query. You can just drag and drop over here. Okay, so you got a Salesforce query over here. Now what you wanted to query? Say that I wanted to query all the accounts. So I said that query, and I put the accounts in the array. That is why I will be able to identify it is going to query the list of accounts. Okay. Now we say that okay, give me the query. What query you wanted to run? So I'll say that select. This is basically the query that we wanted to have. So let's say that ID, I think phone, and I can say that industry, account, and I can put limit that limit records. Okay, but still it is saying that connector configuration is required. You are saying make a query to the account object, but what from which system I need to make a query? Okay, so I'll say that okay, I need to tell you the system. I'll just go ahead and click on add. Name is, you can say that Salesforce config. You can say whatever the name you wanted to have. Connection, there are multiple things. There are multiple options like basic authentication, which you can use username and password, auth 2.0, JWT, auth username and password, auth SAML. For this purpose, I'll use basic authentication where I need to use users. I'll say that whatever my user. So I'll provide my username over here. I will provide my password and the security token. This is one important thing. It is an optional parameter, okay, but you have to provide the security token if you are trying to access your system from anywhere. Basically, this is, I'll say that the best practice is always provide a security token. To get a security token from your Salesforce, I can quickly navigate you to there as well. So basically, if you log into your Salesforce, go to the setup, and on the setup, you can just go here. Okay, say that you just click on your user and click settings. So you will say there will be one option which will say that reset my security token. Okay, you just need to click on that. Then once you click over here, it will say that on the right hand side you will say some sort of information. We will send the security token to this email. So whatever your email will be, for example, my email is this. So if I reset my security token, that security token is going to be sent to my email. Now why I am not able to see the option over here? There are two reasons. One reason is I have added the IP at a network access label. Okay, if I have added that, option is going to be get rid of for that. Okay, you can see I have added that. Other reason is if you have not added, that means you have added this IP ranges at a profile level. So there are two options, profile and network access. So if you go to your profile, you will be able to see that there is IP which is added at my profile level as well. That's not available to me. So if I see like IP ranges, I have got that universal IP. Okay. So once you've got your access token, security token, you can provide over here. Just click on test connection to see if your connection is working fine. And if you got a success, that means it's okay. You got a success. You can just go ahead, okay, and double okay. You got it. If you hit over here, you say that, okay, fine, I'm basically getting a success over here. There is no error. Now you need to return the result to the system, to the making a call. Again, to return that, you need to use transform API, sorry, transform message. Now, if you wait over here in the input, you will be able to see multiple things over here. You can see on the bottom, it is saying that fetching metadata keys. All the fields which we are querying, which we have put over the query. And this is the outcome. So outcome, we are going to say that we are going to have a JSON that to return is basically it is going to be the payload. Okay. So it depends on your internet connectivity, or sometimes it depends on the system processing as well. Takes time to fetch that process, fetch the keys. So we'll wait for a couple of seconds or a 10 to 30 seconds to see if this is coming over here, and we will be able to get it. But there is one more thing that it is requiring over here, right? Well, what it is saying is that, okay, this is basically, if you see it, this is source and this is processors, okay? You must need to tell a listener on which particular URL you are going to make the API call to the Salesforce, and you say that return as the customers. Again, you have to drag and drop the listener over here. This time you can use the same connector configuration. You just need to say that I'm going to say that accounts, okay? And listener here, I'll say that get accounts, so that I can also identify what endpoint I'm going to hit. I will go to the advanced because this is only going to support for the get request. I'll make sure that there is no further methods which are supported for this request. And if you again go to this particular, in the input section, even if you see, right, if you select any particular connector, on the right hand side, you will see two things. One is input, one is output. Both are basically based on our performance, and you can just go ahead and as well. We can go to the transform message. It is still loading. So let it load. Just go ahead and run the project. Outcome, and we'll see if there is any error. Are we able to successfully make a call to Salesforce to get the results related to account? So the project is running. I'd like to take a couple of more questions so that we have less.
Sure, Amit. So one recent question is related to, can we write custom logic to validate generate API keys?
Can you please elaborate what API keys you are sending custom logic?
Sachin, can you please?
Yeah.
I guess it might be related to integration related API keys. If we will be able to generate from Mulesoft, that would be the question. When we are creating a new API in Mulesoft, can we create API keys for authentication? I guess that would be the question.
So basically, you are saying that we are developing an API, and for that we need to generate the API keys, right? So there is that is where our API or any point platform management comes into the picture, basically. So what happens when you develop this API? You have to deploy this API to the endpoint platform, from where you can manage, you can create the connected applications, and then you can manage all your authentication there. So unfortunately, we'll not be able to cover those over here, but yes, there is a way to create the API keys for that, for the authentication purpose.
Okay.
Okay, so our application has been deployed. We can just get back over here and we can change it to account. We'll hit in. We are sending the body. I think that shouldn't matter for us. You can see here, we've got accounts like electronics, apparel, and then there are sorry, this is named Grand Turtle, Edge Communications. So basically, these are the records that we are getting in the form of JSON from there, and we are getting all those fields which we are basically querying in our ID, rating, phone, industry, and name. Type is basically the addition which is telling us the name of our particular record, sorry, object. So if you see here, I hope we should be able to see the data over it. Yeah, you can see here. Now we are here in the transform message. Okay, we can see now this time our payload contains an array of objects. Basically, it is going to return array of objects no matter if you are returning one record. It says that ID is account ID, this is label, this is API key, and this is how your fields are there. You don't have any attributes, you don't have any variables for this. If you go here into query accounts parameter, you see in the input, you see payload, it is kind of any type. We have got attributes. These attributes are coming from here. And if you go to the output, you see nothing variables and nothing adds. Outcome is array of objects. One important thing that you need to keep in mind is the outcome of the previous element always becomes the input of the next element. So that whatever the outcome will be this for this HTTP listener will become the input counts, and whatever the outcome is for the query counts will become the input for. That is how it works. Now, so you don't wanted to send the complete things, okay? You only wanted to display the name, okay? So what we can do is we can, okay, we don't have this, okay? Say that payload and we say that attribute name. I think this is something related to data view. I don't want it to make it more difficult. This is it for it. Now there are requirements. You might say that, okay, we are basically getting all the accounts. What if I wanted to get a particular account based on a parameter I sent? Now, if you wanted to send, say that, okay, some sort of name over here, so that name equal to its communication, okay? So it should be returning only this particular account record, okay? So for this, what we have is, that we do is, you can see here we've got the parameters. In Salesforce, what you usually do is we say that, okay, from account where name equal to, and whatever our parameter is, say that parameter name is name. That is how we usually do in Salesforce. So what we'll do is we'll create a parameter. So the key, this is going to be our name, and what is going to be the value? So value is going to be, okay, it is going to be attributes. You see here attributes. Under attributes, we have got query parameters. So we'll say that, okay, query parameters, query params, and what is the name of that parameter? The name of the parameter is name. So I'll say that that is name, okay. And if there is nothing, I'll say default value will be, so that default value will be blank. That is how we can provide over here, but it's default. Now we have got this. The one thing that you need to keep here is you need to put colon, the punctuation mark, and your variable name inside a single quote. Then only it will work in the Mulesoft. In Salesforce, we usually don't do this, but in Mulesoft, we need to put and the variable name that you have created over here. You can have multiple variable names like industry or phone or any other thing. You can have that over here. Once you are done, you can just go ahead and save it, and to see if the console is ready. And once this console is ready, we can just try to see if that API also works or not. So it's done here. We'll try to make it and we'll see if there is any error. We'll get the error. Okay, we got two records, right? Because there are two records with the same name as communications, and we got both of them. So that is how you can make the selective query as well. And so I see that there the time is over. So if everyone is okay, I can just go and show how to basically create make a create call, and then we can wrap up. Otherwise, I'm fine to wrap up here as well. So can we have the votes on the chat window if everyone is fine for going? Yes, Simi, we can have a like operator as well there. You can try that. Okay, so I've got to go ahead. So what I'll do is this time we'll try to create, I think, a new listener over here. We'll say that, okay, create a new listener. And this time what we'll do is we'll post accounts, so that post. And this time it is going to say that accounts. And the URL parameter is going to be the same, post accounts. Go to the advanced parameter, I'll say that post. And then post accounts, what we'll do is we'll say that Salesforce create. Just go ahead and drag and drop over here. what it is going to do is it is going to create accounts. Connection is okay. Payload, whatever payload will get, type is going to be. So if you, whatever the object you'll search, you'll see your object over here. So we'll say that okay. So we've got a success over here. It will take some time to load the metadata. Now once we have created the account, what we'll do is we'll use a transfer message so that we can return to the user. So we'll say that it's going to be a JSON, and we'll say that. So whatever this you can see here on the left itself, we are able to see if there is any exception or what is the payload. There is so now in the right there are few parameters that we need. What sort of information we wanted to send? Okay. So to create, there will be a mapping. So we'll also use a transfer message between listener and accounts. Now you can see here, it is on right in the outcome section. It is saying that these are all the fields related to account object. Every single thing, no matter if it is a part of managed package, it is a custom, it is a related object. Every single field you will get over here. On the left hand side, you see that there is a payload, but you don't know what sort of payload is there. Now, one important thing is that whenever you are trying to read some information to send it to some other system, right? So what you need to do is you need to define the payload. You need to tell the system, you need to tell the developer, this is the request format that I can accept. After that, apart from that, I cannot accept anything else. So I'll just go ahead and copy this. We'll say that define metadata, click on add, and we will say that accounts.json. Okay, it should be only accounts. We don't need to put anything else. Go ahead and click on create type. So we'll just go ahead and create a type, and you will see here, as soon as I created a type, inside a main resource, there was a new file created, application types. Inside this file, it is going to take every single thing. So now here what we'll say, it is going to be a JSON, and it is going to be the example, not example, it's going to be a schema, okay? And we basically need to find out where our schema is. So our project is there. We'll go to SRC, test, resource, and I'll try to create, I'm not sure if I go to my folder here. Where is the studio workspace? Mulesoft workspace. This is not enough. Okay, so I'll go to the applications. So package content. No. Give me just allow me a few minutes, guys. Is there what we'll do is instead of creating here, wasting a time, we'll go to the we'll right click, create a file, and here I'll say this is the file. We'll say that accounts.json file. We'll just go ahead and click on finish, and there will be a JSON file which will be created. This is basically an example file which will tell that this is the kind of information that we need. Okay, this is going to accept the multiple accounts. We'll make it array, and we can have here multiple accounts if you want. If you don't want, you can have. Remove this ID. Okay, we don't need that ID. We need a type. We don't need the type as well. We only need industry name, rating, industry phone name and rating. If you have multiple, you can also have multiple over here. And if you don't want, you don't need to provide that. Not going to be make any difference. So get back to here. Go to the listener again, and go to the basically metadata. Say that add metadata. Output payload, whatever going to be the output of this element, will click on edit, select accounts, we'll select JSON because this will select, I think it should be schema. We go there and say SRC, test, resources, accounts.json, open it. and you will, this is not, sorry, should be example. So these are parameters, you click on select, and now you've got defined, we have defined user defined accounts. If you go to the transform message, right, now you see payload has an array of objects. We've got industry, we've got phone, we've got rate. Now we need to map these with the field. So what we have got is we've got name. So search for name. This is account name. I'll just go ahead and drag and drop over here, and I did map. This is doing the coding for me without any issue. I have got rating. So I'll just go ahead, drag and drop the rating as well. It is going to put over here. Then I've got industry. So for that I'll search for industry and then phone. This one. Okay. If you wanted to have something, suppose that you wanted to have, it can be, let's see what other parameters we have for account. I think we can say that billing street, we say that 123 main street. This is basically the hardcore thing that we are giving, right? So now if you close this, I'll just go ahead, and you see here, these are the mappings, right? You can just go ahead and scroll down and you see what are all the fields which has mapped. You see here, all the fields has been mapped, the fields that you wanted to have. So if you see, if I say that it should be billing, but with a static value, with the help of a function. So that is how your mapping works over here. This is usually working. If you go to the preview, we can also see what sort of preview it is looking like. Instead of Java, we'll say that it is a JSON. Once you do the JSON, you'll see this is basically how it is going to preview look like. And now you've got the transfer message. You already have got all these things. Now what we do is just go ahead, control save, and we'll try to see if our application has deployed. And in the meantime, we'll just go ahead and prepare few account records over here. So we'll say that, okay, we've got accounts. There are a couple of records. I'll say that mule 1. I'll say that mule 2 can be industry or it can be technology. And type we need to remove, we don't need. We'll just go ahead, ID and type will remove this. Okay. And we'll just go ahead, see, okay, our application is ready. Both get and post. So try to get it. You got two accounts, that is working fine. If I say, okay, there is nothing, I'm just sending a, I'm getting nothing because there is nothing with that. Or I'll just go ahead and make it post. Let it be the query parameters. We don't need that. We'll just go ahead and send it. So now, if you see here, we've got exception. There is nothing. We've got successful is true. We've got successful true and successful is true. We created two accounts, right? If you by default, no, this week has nothing. If I go ahead and refresh this, there are two accounts that have been created, mule 1, mule 2. If I go here, open any of that, address field is also auto-populated. So if you see here, if you can go, you can see the address has been auto-populated. This is 123 Main Street. How basically you sorry, Salesforce. Now there are various parameters, right? For Salesforce, you search here, you can see things. You've got you can upsert, you can metadata, you can authorize, unauthorized listener, channel listener for working with platform events and streaming APIs. So there are a lot of things that you can have. You can try with your own. You wanted to work with AWS, you can search for AWS. I think it should be Amazon. If you don't find anything, you don't need to worry about. You just click on search in Exchange, and you need to log in. So you just say that, okay, click on add account, and it will open a UI for you where you need to provide your username and password. it will say login expires after, I'll say that 30 days, because that is what, okay, 1 to 15th, I'll say that, okay, let's make it 15 days. And we'll see the UI over here, username and password, we'll log in, search for, we will search for basically the AWS connectors and some more connectors. And I think now I'm ready to take further questions, Meera.
So, Amit, considering the time, maybe we have noted down all the questions. Probably we will share with you, and we have informed them that we will be updating the questions through our chatter group. Is that okay? Like there are some questions related to like API setting up of API limits, and also what are the best practices while developing APIs, and also how we can perform encryption within Mulesoft. Those are some questions we received till now.
Okay, these all are related to advanced. So if we say, as this is a beginner's more or less beginner session, so I'll strongly say that don't go on that advanced side, because for too advanced in MuleSoft, you already know that you definitely be knowing multiple other groups for MuleSoft. Just to go there and join all those groups, like for encryption or the secure properties files or providing the SLAs kind of things, you can just definitely go there. There are various groups, or there are various people who are trying to have those events. You can go there and join, and definitely what go ahead and then I will just connect with Meera and then say we'll share all possible.
Okay.
I think this last thing that we have got, right? So we have got, say that Amazon S3. If you wanted to connect with Amazon S3, you just need to go ahead, search, go here, and once you have done with this, just go ahead and click on finish. And what it will do is it will download all the connectors. It will add over here under the connectors for this particular project. You'll be able to see all your connectors over here, and you can start working on that site. With this, anything I do have. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. I know I've taken quite a lot of time. Thank you for joining us on Saturdays. What do you, Meera?
Thank you so much, Amit. It was a very useful session. I'm sure like people got at least high level overview on how they can get started with Mulesoft. And there was also a question related to if there are some documentations where they can refer to get a start on Mulesoft. So I guess it is the official Mulesoft documentation itself, right? Or do you have any other suggestion?
There is training.mulesoft.com. They have self-paced training, which is basically free. You can just go ahead, create a free account. That is a free account, and just go ahead and start learning from there, and you'll get a lot more thing. You'll get to learn a lot more thing over there.
Okay. Sure. Thank you so much, Amit. So I guess with that, we can get started with Kahu. Give us just 1 minute.